Hey everybody, welcome to Slingin Dirt. Obviously, you can tell this is not Buddy Ray.
Hi.
This is Corey Baker from Baker Boys Racing. He's going to be co-hosting the show this week with me. I didn't have to bring in a pretty face like Jamie Songer, so we have brought in real racing guys, not just comedians with pretty faces. But today's show, we are going to have a good time. It's going to be a little different format than what we normally do. And we're going to talk a lot about the Great Crate Debate and Claimer Motors, some of the rules and things. You guys run the modified division, so that you got a little more insight to how it affects you. We know how it affects us in sport mods. Songer knows how it affects him in the hobby stocks. We're going to talk about isms. Yes, I said isms.
But yeah, buddyisms.
Buddyisms,
Definitely.
Jamie-isms. You're going to get a real insight on interpreting Iwanese.
Yeah, everybody doesn't understand what buddy says a lot of times, so hopefully we'll break it down for you today.
Yep. And then we're going to talk about the Baker Boys Racing. We got a tech tip on winterizing your race cars and some things that you should do. You're going to enlighten us on some of the stuff from the suspension. I will do some of the engine stuff. And then we'll have a Songer Says, and we'll also talk a little bit about holiday horsepower drive and racing with the stars. So hang with us. We'll be right back with Slingin Dirt.
Warning, the related content may be disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey, welcome back to Slingin Dirt. We're here with Corey Baker of Baker Boys Racing, my not-so-pretty co-host compared to what Buddy Ray brings to his show.
Hey, my hair looks really good right now.
You look great.
Thanks.
Compared to those two last week.
And I'm wearing my Shane Hyatt Racing t-shirt. Come on.
There you go. Buddy's on vacation in Colorado racing, so he won't be on this show, and he left it for us to do what we want. So the first thing we want to do is kind of clear up some buddy speak. We call them isms. And those guys give me a lot of crap, and they beat up on me all the time. So this is kind of like my little bit of payback, homage to them. First thing, you got to understand, this is fun, okay? This is not being mean. This is done in fun. These guys know it's fun. I know it's fun. I don't need any more Buddy Ray fan club Facebook death threats, okay?
Hold on. There's a Buddy Ray fan club.
There is, believe it or not. There's a Buddy Ray fan club, and boy, every time I bash him, I get death threats
besides
on
his
Facebook.
mother and his wife.
I don't know. It could be. I don't know. I don't think his mom is a fan. I don't think his wife Rachel is either. I don't. But anyways, when it comes to Buddy Ray Jones, great guy, does a lot for a lot of people. But we're going to clear up some of that Buddy Ray speak. So.
Well, yeah. When I first met Buddy, Trevor and him were more good friends, worked together, did stuff together. But I didn't really understand a lot of the stuff that he was saying. So this is gonna help. This is going to help the viewers understand what Buddy's really saying when he talks to you.
Yeah. So for instance, when Buddy says, "I tell you what," what's that mean?
That means he's going to tell you a story that may or may not be based in truth or reality.
And I'm sure it's going to be embellished. At the very least.
Significant tall tale time. Get ready. Strap on your tall waders, your hip waders on this one.
And another thing that he says all the time, you watch his Facebook post, whatever. We were bad fast. What's that mean to you?
Anytime hot laps come, that's Buddy Ray's time to shine. He dominates, and you can usually see that he's going to be bad fast. He actually made it out there. And he
got the car started, got it on the track for hot laps.
Got it out there. Tranny didn't break in hot laps and made it through.
Another thing he's famous for saying is, we were hammer down. You know what that means?
That means that they actually made it out for the heat race. He may or may not have gotten black flagged for a jump in the start, but he did actually race the heat race.
That's right. And then his favorite one is if he's made it that far, he'll say, we were moving through the field.
Moving through the field means that Buddy Ray got going in the feature. He was actually making it through the race and kind of holding his position, maybe moving back a few spots, but he's actually racing out there with the crowd.
Yeah, and usually that means he's hitting everybody and everything on the track, and if he does finish it. But the one thing you always listen to Buddy speak, he says, but. You know what but means?
That but means that, hold on a second. Usually if you're following Buddy's Facebook page or following his race update, you'll see a heat race update, but then things go quiet.
Yeah, it's but. And the but means we broke or we wrecked. So if you can take them in any order of we were bad fast, but
something happened, we broke.
Hammer down means we made it to the heat race, but we didn't finish because we broke, or we were moving through the field, but. So there you have it. That's Buddy Ray speak. You know, he talks about his pit crew all the time. Fred and Jeff, those are great guys. You know, they always pitting next to me, wanting to be on my crew next year.
Yeah, we absconded with Fred, took him up to Stewart this year. He's a great guy, good crew member.
But these guys do all the work. Buddy Ray, he's kind of like, when it comes to working on his car, he's kind of like Ray Charles reading a Where's Waldo book.
Yeah, you won't find him. When he crashes that thing up, Fred will be under the car, inside the car, working, taking it apart, putting another tranny in. Buddy is off signing autographs, talking to people, looking pretty.
Yep, he does. Anyways, that's your breakdown of Buddy speak. Now we're going to go to Songer, because you know what, Songer? I love you. You're an intelligent, intellectual, thought-provoking, insightful kind of guy.
We're talking about Jamie Songer now?
We are.
Okay,
and again, Jamie's another one of those guys that does a lot for a lot of people. This is in good fun. But Jamie, you don't have as many isms as Buddy does, but you got 3 distinct ones. It cracks me up as you go, seriously?
It means, are you kidding me? What's going on here?
Yeah, and are you kidding me is another one.
Are you kidding me means, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting so dumb
right now? Are you stupid? You know? And he goes, really?
Means, are you stupid? What's wrong with you?
So pretty much all of yours mean the same thing, Jamie. Are you stupid? Now with that being said, you crack me up when you do the, oh, I shouldn't talk like this little voice because that must mean something different. I don't know where you get that Iwegian Oompa Loompa thing, but it cracks me up. But with that all being said, being as smart and insightful and everything as you are, I gotta call you out on one thing. Now when you drive into Iowa, what's the first thing you see?
You see that big sign up there.
And what's it say?
It says,
no texting and driving, right? Or some sort of saying.
Yeah. You know, but
what
he's always shooting his show, and he's
driving his truck with a camera down by his glove box somewhere. Come on, man.
I don't know. Iowa State Patrol, if you're listening right now, you see Jamie Songer out there driving, follow him, because you're going to get a chance to write him a citation.
That's it. So there you have it. That's isms for today. We'll be right back with some more Slingin' Dirt.
At Kaziski Auto Parts Team PRP, this is where everything starts with our quality control, staying clean, and everything is organized right here in the teardown. At Kaziski Auto Parts, in our Step 2 process, this is where our guys take the engines and trannies out. They power wash and make sure everything tests good and clean so you have no problems for your vehicle. This is Step 3 at Kaziski Auto Parts. This is where everything, again, is organized, put on the shelf properly, tagged right. And if you notice how clean everything is, so that suits you, because we're not a junkyard, we are a recycled auto parts store. This is our last and final step here. This is the shipping and receiving. This is the last part where the part gets checked one last time, so 3 people will touch your part before it goes out the door, packaged properly, and sent right to your door. Kaziski Auto Parts Team PRP. We have over 1,000 cars in stock a year, over 1,000 engines and trannies. Give us a call anytime. 402-731-4592. Any one of our 10 salesmen can help you at any time.
Hey, welcome back to Slingin' Dirt, brought to you by Joe's Karting. Joe's Karting, great place. It's fast, fun, friendly place to go racing, and it's the only track in which Buddy Ray can actually complete a race without his car breaking.
That's definitely true.
All right, we're going to talk about the Great Crate debate, and Corey here, my co-host Corey Baker from Baker Boys Racing. It affects you guys. We've talked about it like Songer, and he talked about it last week, how it affects the hobby stocks. You know, Buddy and I, we always talk about it because I'm a claimer guy. He's a crate guy for the sport mods, but you guys run the modified. Tell us how it affects you guys and what you're seeing.
You know, I think for our class, we run an open motor. You know, we believe in the open motor, but it's I think as a class as a whole, you see that the crate motor, it'd be one thing if it would have made the class faster, but reality is that what they did was they took the speed away from the open motors to basically make it even with the crates. And so they give the crates a spoiler. You know, you look at Super Nationals, 3 guys made the feature that were in open motor. And what did they do? They all went straight backwards. You know, we need something. You know, Brett Root, if you're listening, Tom, guys, I know you're getting ready to have a big meeting about rules. you need to do something to make things more even, because right now, the way things are set up, guys are going away from the open motors. I mean, and it's killing the local machinists. It's killing a lot of stuff that we have going on in this.
Yeah, and the thing is too is, you know, as I talked about, you know, earlier, my problem with the crate motors is that they're almost forcing you to have to run a crate. You have to buy the motor from them with the IMCA seals and all that kind of stuff on it. And it takes some of the fun. I understand the economic side of it. Yes, it's, you know, probably cheaper. I don't know if it's really cheaper because, you know, I know how much money we put into our motors.
Yep.
We don't dump $5,000 into a motor. At least I don't, you know, 3,000 probably.
Yep. I think we're in the same ballpark.
You know, 3,000. And this is one of those different things too. Both Corey and I, we're kind of the low budget racers where you look at Buddy Ray and Songer. Those guys are more of the medium line racer where they have a little more resources than we do. You know, obviously they're not the Abelsons and, you know, the big names out there who have major sponsors backing them and a row of crate motors sitting in their shop and tires that they can buy every week to put new tires on. You know, we're the backyard basic guys, just like most people are out there. And I see that you know, it's just kind of forcing you to have to buy a crate. You know, and the thing is you have to, even if you can't afford a new crate, you got to buy a used crate. And if you buy a used crate, you don't know what you're getting. And the only way to me that they're going to fix this type of stuff is to make the rules even, both by carburation, bodies, you know.
In our class, it's more about the spoiler. I really think Trevor and I have talked a lot about that, and I think the spoiler is what it really gives them the advantage, because you can slow your motor down, you can put a 2-barrel on your motor, you can do all kinds of things in the open mod class to make it more even, but you give them a 2-inch spoiler. That's why you see big tracks like Vegas, even at I-80, you see the open motors just go to the back of the pack. I mean, you just can't be competitive.
Yeah, and like in our class, I mean, the big thing is you know, depending on which sanctioning body you run, you know, you have to run, if you're running a claimer motor, you got to run a 2-barrel carburetor, 500 CFM 2-barrel carburetor, where a crate gets to run a 4-barrel carburetor, and they're chipped. Well, NASCAR, I believe, they'll let you run an open motor with a 4-barrel, but you have to be chipped, and I'm okay with that. But, you know, if you run a lot of different tracks like you guys do, you run 40 nights a week.
Yeah, we run a lot.
You know, if you got to change carburetors back and forth and gears and all that, I mean, it gets to be where it's not much fun because you're doing so much prep work on your car that you know, and then you got to switch it all back for your weekly shows and things that you run. I think they need to kind of narrow everything down to where it's advantageous for everybody, you know.
And I think the reality is that, I mean, everything we hear is that IMC they don't really want the open motors. I mean, that's what I see.
That's kind of what I see too.
So, I mean, hopefully those guys will, you know, make some changes out there.
Yeah, I mean, take away that spoiler, let you guys, you know, run 4-barrel carburetors, make everybody even. I mean, they have a tech process for a reason.
Yep.
And everybody knows, and Songer elaborated to this on the last show, is that there are cheaters with the crates too, okay? And they need to expose those guys, whether they're modifying the chips in their cars or they're doing stuff and resealing motors, whatever it is. Those, you know, that stuff has to be...
Well, not to name names anyway, but Kelly Shyrock this year got caught, you know, won a big show. You know, I'm sure Kelly didn't know, I don't know, but running 300 RPM over because he had a restrictor in his box. I mean, Tom Gutowski did a big thing on Facebook to show exactly what it was that those guys were cheating. So that way they get their tech official. But that thing, you get caught maybe at a big show running something like that, but the local guy, he has no idea that the guy next to him has got a cheated up MSD box. And so it's like the guys are running stuff that, you know, we're dumbing down our motors. Those guys are trying to get more power because it's that middle ground, and then they get that extra 300 horsepower is the difference between being able to be competitive and them just walking away from it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's either that or just get rid of the chips and let everybody run whatever RPMs they want, you know? But the thing is that you can't, when they start having those crate motors, guess what? The cost of racing just went up because they're blowing up these motors faster than, you know, and so there you go. What is the point of having a crate motor if you're gonna strangle them, and then if you take that stranglehold off of them, they're gonna blow them up, and it's gonna cost more than it would to run your claim motor where you know what you got.
No, definitely. Well, and the thing is you can't, you know, fixing it, that's the hard part.
You can't just take it apart and fix it because it's all sealed up, you know, other than valve springs. About the only thing you can change, and obviously they haven't mastered the valve springs in those motors yet because everybody's you know.
Yeah, I know a couple guys that have dropped valves because of old valve springs and blown up crate motors.
Yeah, and not having, you know, because it's sad if you have to buy, you know, 5 boxes of valve springs to get enough to match to put in your motor on the one try, you know.
And that's part of the frustrating part, is that the guys that are running the crates, you know, to be competitive with the top guys, they can't just buy the crate engine. They have to have it dyno to make sure, and then the guys that have the most money and power behind this deal are getting a bunch of motors, and then they're going through them, picking the best one, and that's the ones that the guys that are the top dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the ones that they get, because that's who they want to.
Then again, it's who you know and big money, and
yeah.
you know. So there you have it, folks. The great crate debate. You got it from the mod class now, and what they feel, and you've already heard it from me and Buddy and Songer.
Come on, Brett Root, you know, if you're out there.
Now, one thing I will say is the quick change rear end.
I like it. I do.
I wish they would give that to the sport mods, because we would travel more.
Yep, and you see it in the mod class this year. The traveling shows, their contents have gone up, definitely.
Yes, they are a little expensive, but that's one of those components you don't change out. You don't blow them up. You know, it's easy to change gears, and you can do it at the track without making a gigantic mess. You know, if you accidentally put the wrong gear in it, whatever. So Brett, I mean, that's my vote for what to change, along with what we've already talked about motor-wise, is let the sport mods have the quick change rear ends. So there you go, folks, the great crate debate and a little bit of IMCA pep talk, and we'll be right back with some pay some bills from our sponsors here. Hey, welcome back to Slingin Dirt, everybody. Got Corey Baker, my guest co-host here, filling in for the old Boudreaux Ray Jones. He's off on vacation in Colorado, getting his rear end kicked from some Rocky Mountain High boys up there, I'm sure. So, but he's doing a racing vacation and seeing some sights with his wife Rachel, and good for him. He needs some time off. So.
Definitely.
But today we're going to actually interview Corey Baker. His brother Trevor couldn't be here because he had to use that sorry W word. He had to work. So. Yeah. We want to talk about Baker Boys Racing. You know, we've hooked up before and done bodies together, and you know, on our car and Buddy's car and a lot of our inner circle guys. Yeah. Not only do you guys race under the name Baker Boys Racing, you also have a business under Baker Boys Racing, correct?
Yep. Yeah. What actually happened was a couple years ago, Dawson County Raceway, Alan Wisman was their promoter at the time, advertised on Dirt Drivers saying, "Hey, needed parts guy." So Trevor and I kind of talked back and forth, and we're like, "Hey, let's give it a shot. What do you think?" So we kind of called around a little bit, figured out if we could get parts. Obviously, as a parts guy, you need to be able to get parts.
That would help.
And so, you know, we kind of figured it out that we were going to make it work, and so we started, you know, driving from Lincoln out to Lexington every weekend to go out and be the parts guy out there. So, you know, kind of we go way back. Our uncle Kevin Snyder kind of started me in racing. Him and John Sadoff started jet racing back in the day. Kevin did all the fabrication, and then John obviously is the sales guy, and so kind of since then we kind of had that feet in racing, you know, and so kind of going forward we've kind of this year developed more. We've gotten tied in with Jay Neal at BSB. We started running the BSB shops and being a dealer for them, so we've kind of developed, you know, kind of branched out. This year we started doing, last year, you know, we did about 10 bodies.
Right, which I had one of your bodies and they came out great.
Yeah. You know, we try to produce a quality product for the racers, because our motto is, you know, fast, fun, and affordable. Well, as you know, Jack, there's nothing affordable about racing.
No, there is not. Nothing's free. Nobody gives you anything.
Yeah. So
if you don't have sponsors, God bless you. I don't know how you do it. You must be independently wealthy.
Win the lotto, maybe. I don't know. But I mean, we understand that we're racers. We're not trying to gouge anybody. You know? And so we understand we are low buck guys, so it's like we understand the hardships that guys go through. You know, we don't want anybody to go broke doing this.
Well, and that's one thing we were talking about too, is that you guys are not only, you know, selling racing stuff through your business, you're also racers. You know, it's kind of like what Josh Most does. You know, he sells chassis and shocks and stuff, but he's also a racer. And that's so valuable to have guys like you who, you say you're BSB Shocks and you're at the track where I'm running. I can come right up to you and ask you, say, hey, I got this problem, it's doing this or this. Or I need to give you a shock to have, revalved or whatever. That's valuable to the racer himself, to have that face-to-face. You're not just a 1-800 number on a website,
Well, and that's where, this year it's been frustrating because, like, for us out at Lexington this year, Speedway Motors thought, they're a big company and they needed to travel around and deal with the local parts deals, which is fine. I think it's good for the racers because they're probably getting a better price than what we can give them just with their buying power, Precise Racing came in and bumped Ron Sardison, who's a good friend of ours.
Love Ron.
Sardison Racing, I mean, just a great guy that's for the racer. It's a small business, just like us, a small business, but it's like these guys come in, they're not, racers. I mean, the people that run their parts trailer, they're not racers, so that's at the end of the day, I just ask everybody to support the Ron Sardison, support even Jet Racing, who we have a good relationship with, Jay Neal at BSB, support the guys that are actually racers,
Sure.
These big parts companies, Speedway, God bless them, they employ a lot of my friends, but, they're importing stuff from China. It's just the parts that you're getting from them.
Yeah, it's like tough. Shopping at Walmart.
It is.
It's mass produced, and you don't always know. And there was people, that, like we were talking like the valve springs earlier, guys that had got DQ'd because their springs didn't measure, right out of the box, and
brand new stuff
from Speedway, and what do? Your hands are tied. IMCA says you'll run this part, and then you've got this guy supplying this part that's not up to the standards. So it's back and forth. Now, as I say, I believe in supporting the local guys. Ron Sardison, love you guys. You've done a lot for me in my racing career throughout the years and helping me out in pinches. And, it's even like the crate claim debate we talked about. The local engine builders are affected by that. The local parts stores are affected by that.
You talk about...
And the thing is, we talk about engines. Those are guys that are sponsoring you too. So when you take that, you're taking away sponsorship, you're taking away, all different things that I don't think these big guys realize they're doing to the small town racer.
Well, it's crazy. You talk about engine builders like Brian Schmidt Machine down in Fairbury. They do motors for us. They also do open motors for Jordan Grabowski, and it's they said they're only doing a couple open motors right now. It's like, people don't realize the number of local businesses, and I'm sure it's across the nation, that have been hurt by the crate deal because you're getting some product that's
mass produced.
Yeah. So it's just.
By Juan Valdez, and then it's shipped to the U.S. They throw some IMCA seals on it, and guess what? You got a crate motor that costs you $4,500 to $6,000, depending on what division and what you're running.
Hold on, the price just changed. They just went up again.
Well, it just depends what division you're running, and you're handcuffed by it. And once you have one, then you get all these little shops that fold up because there are no more racing guys, and with modern technology in cars. The only guys that are supporting those shops are the hot routers anymore. So I totally agree with you. So we're kind of reverting back, but I want to talk more about you guys' season this year too. Trevor wheeling the car and you doing the setup and crew chiefing on that. You said you were running about 40 nights this year. How'd you do?
About 40 nights this year. We kind of had up and down season. Just learning. I mean, as everybody if you've ever gone to the mod class or racing the open mod class, it's like you got the best of the best. I mean, you're racing against guys, Shane Hyatt, Jordan Grabowski, John Sadoff, Chris Abelson, Dylan Smith. I mean, you're racing against guys that have won national championships on a weekly basis.
Right.
I mean, it's
mind-blowing.
You want to get your butt kicked quick. You want to get a reality check on how good you think you are.
Yeah.
Come to the open mod class. I mean, it's the best of the best. It really is. I mean, you watch, guys like Jordan we race against weekly. He goes and he runs USMTS against, the best of the best.
Sobbing and those guys that are out running that.
Yeah, but they beat him. I mean, you watch it, Jordan, he beats those guys weekly.
Yeah.
And it's like, for us, we've learned a lot this year. We raced Beatrice and Eagle weekly. We raced up at Columbus, raced up at Albion. Didn't make it out to Lexington this year. We did race there a lot last year, being the parts guys also. And then we raced also at Super Nationals. That was an awesome learning experience for us.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Super Nats. If you've never raced there, I totally encourage everybody to go out to Boone and just enjoy it one year maybe, and then race the next year, because we only raced probably 40 laps maybe the whole week between getting crashed and not making it, getting through a heat race maybe, or not making it through a heat race, but making a B feature one night. But one night we did, our highlight of the week was beating Todd Chute.
Yeah.
Got fourth in a heat race and Todd got fifth. So.
Yeah, it's always fun when you beat those guys.
So I mean, it's just, it's been a really fun year. We're hoping to do a couple more specials and finish out a strong year.
I remember my very first heat race win, and it was actually Buddy was there, but it was Gary Sadoff, and he was the track champion in Eagle, and I remember winning my first heat race against him and Buddy going, 3 and 4 wide into 1 and 2 and just hammer down and come out and take that checkered flag, and beating some quality guy that is just top notch like Gary is just makes you feel good. You don't know if he had a bad day or you had a good day, but I'll take it.
Right. And that's one thing too. I mean, for us in our business, it's like, we want to help the guys that are the front runners are going to be fast. The Jordans are going to be fast. It's the guys that are the back of the pack guys that we want to help, because for you, winning a heat race might be the highlight of the whole year. You know, I know we worked with James Hines at Eagle.
Yeah, I know
for
James
James,
well.
Just for him, the first time he made that feature, and you guys probably know that, it's like when you're racing against 50 cars a night in that sport mile class at Eagle.
It is hard. It's tough at Eagle.
It's brutal class, and just for him, it was like, as a young racer starting off in his career, just making the feature was such a highlight.
Yeah, and I remember when James first started out there at Eagle, and he was running a Harris chassis just like I run, and he got from Mary Lentz, and he just started out with the low budget stuff, what he could afford, and then he stepped up and got one of Gary Sadoff's old cars. Yeah. And a lot of people think that when you go get somebody else's car that knows how to wheel it good and has the setup and the technology in the background,
but it's been
and then you get it automatically, you're going to be good. And I think James found out that that's not really the case. And you're only, but the thing is he kept the car in one piece, and he got better, and then he makes an A feature and things like that. And I'm proud of the guy. I mean, James, I've raced with James for a lot of years. This first year I haven't raced with him. He's one of those crews. You know how it is, us small budget guys. We are swapping parts from each other's trailer and whatever we got to do to get each other out there and running against the big dogs. So hats off to James. You guys had a good up and down season, kind of like most people. This was kind of a weird year with the track conditions and all the rain and
super heavy early in the
the tracks weren't as predictable as they normally are, and I don't know diddly about setting up a modified when it comes to all that suspension stuff, and I just know they turn themselves, it looks like, but obviously it's not that easy.
Seems like it, right?
Yeah,
the guys,
it looks
the
like
guys
from the
that
outside.
go good, they turn themselves pretty much, but that's one thing we've learned this year, is like really how to make a car fast. I mean, we took some hard lessons. You figure out how to make your front end fast. You figure out, one thing we're doing this year. We have a 1999 Impala Stub jet mod. That's what we've been racing. So this year we stepped up. This next year we're gonna race it. It'll be a 2010 jet mod, same chassis Impala Stub. But it's like, for anybody out there that's kind of starting off, I'd recommend get something that's current enough that your setup guy can help you. So that way, if you're whatever builder you have, if it's Razor, if it's BMS, if it's Jet, those guys will be able to give you some tech support, because it's the current technology.
Yeah, I mean, not all of us can afford to go pay $10,000 and $12,000 for a nice brand new chassis and all that. Like mine. I mean, I'm running an 04 Harris that I had updated in 2011. And it's still, behind the times now. Yeah. So if you can get I think the biggest key to starting out in racing is getting a good chassis that is pretty straight, or at least you can put it on a jig and have it straightened or whatever. And starting out with a good base, because the chassis is everything, and then you just got to work. I know, like with us, and you guys, I think probably do the same thing. Each year you kind of work on a different section of your program, and last year for me was shocks, and I got some shocks from Joss Most, and it did help a lot in how we handled and how we drove. And you guys have a pretty good shock package you was telling me about.
Yeah, well, I think for us this year, that's probably the reason we're actually competitive most nights, is because going to BSBs, working with Jay Neal down there, it's like, those guys, they just have, some of the best technology out there, and each shock is individually made. It's a custom-made shock. It's not like when you're getting a Bilstein from the factory.
Same thing with like Josh. He builds them right there to what you need, what your driving style is, what kind of tracks do you run, and then he takes it and then obviously the dyno machines are another key factor. Having somebody, your shock guy should have a dyno machine and be able to actually see what it's doing.
Definitely. Dyno them, but like in Jay's case, he's got guys all across the country that are winning. He's got William Gould, Keith White, guys that really know how to race and give him the right feedback to be able to make his cars fast.
Sure.
Especially in open modified.
Well, that's no different than the crew chief driver relationship. It's all about the feedback of what you get,
Definitely.
I actually put my son in the car and let him drive a race this year, so he could, instead of, because he's a driver too. but he just can't afford to be running the classes that we're running anymore, and he doesn't want to run compact, so he decided to wick it up in crew chief, because that's what he does for a living anyway, is wrenching. And I put him in the car, and we talked about how much of a difference it makes for him to be able to drive the car and work on the car, so when I tell him something, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Do you ever get in the car and run?
Well,
that was a big sigh.
Yeah, I did one time. Got in the car, hot laps at Beatrice. I almost stayed here ahead of Mary Lance. Sorry, Mary. But I was getting close to her at least. But the guys got me in the car one night, and it was a good time. It's just fun. I mean, if you don't know, if you've never done it, definitely take the chance to get at least hot lap or take a moment to get behind the wheel.
Yeah, I always thought some of these local tracks need to have crew chief night, where the season's over. We bring the cars back and make the crew chiefs run them.
Well, they used to do that a lot more. They used to have the mechanics races.
Yeah, the wise races or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, my wife would never get in that car. She doesn't even like driving in a regular car with me. I was telling you the story about coming back from Texas and stuff. But anyhow, you guys, up and down year, your business is doing well. What are some of the services with your business side that you guys provide for the racers?
The biggest thing we started off with is obviously parts, but then now we've kind of branched off. This last year we added the bodies. We do have a big body sale going on right now. $250 to start off, kind of doors and quarters, little dress up kit, and then all the way up to, say if you need everything minus your interior, right now we got a sale going $950. So, and then the other thing we have going with working with Jay at BSB is a special sale. I don't know if everybody's seen, but Tyler Fry has been dominant this year. Amazing season.
He has.
Congrats, Tyler.
He's amazing. Yeah. Championship.
Congrats, Tyler, on the perfect season, 1240. I mean, that means 2 track championships with over 20 cars a night, which is legitimate track championships, and over 30 wins. I think last time I talked to those guys, I think they had 34 wins. They just dominated down at Hayes, Kansas. So every night they've been out there, they've just been super fast. But that's where, right now we have a special sale going with our BSB shocks. 145, which is a custom valve, 20 series shock, and then so with our little higher line shocks, 195 right now, and that would be a bulk shock, and then with a base valve. So it's just different stuff that we've got going.
Okay, do you guys have a website that people can go to?
We do. We have BakerBoysRacing25.com. That's our business website, and we also have a lot of stuff is on Facebook. So
right.
If you find us, if you need to talk to us, or if you need information, go to our Facebook page, message us, or give us a call, 402-314-0402, and then just get a hold of us. If you're just slow and you want to get faster, if you're a middle of the pack and want to go forward, whatever your program's at.
Wherever you need to improve on, it seems like every year it changes, whether it's, bearings in the front end of your car, low friction this, or, drive shafts that, or transmission this, shock absorber that. There's always something you can work on. So if you guys got something that you need help with, give Corey and Trevor a call, or look them up on Facebook or on their website, and give the Baker boys a try to help you out. And with that being said, good luck for you guys next year. I hope everything works out, and we're going to continue on with the show. You're going to be back, and we're going to do a tech tip next. So everybody hang with us. It's Slingin Dirt TV, brought to you by Joe's Karting. Hey, welcome back everybody to Slingin Dirt TV, brought to you by Joe's Karting. Joe's Karting, a fast, fun, friendly place to go turn some laps, see some faces of local drivers and crew chiefs, and it's the only place where Buddy Ray can race and doesn't break down. So go to Joe's Karting and get your jiggy on and have some fun.
Definitely.
We are going to talk on our tech tip today about winterizing your motors and your car in general. And there's a lot of things people don't think about, the new racers don't think about when it comes to actually putting your car away for the winter, that can really affect how it will perform the next season, and you won't understand why it's not doing what it did last year. And that's one of the biggest things that I learned myself, is that you can't just roll your car into the shop, throw a cover over it, and call her good till the next year, and then expect it to handle exactly the way it did when you put it away, because everything's changed even just sitting there. And it's amazing how much does change. We're going to talk about winterizing your motors, winterizing your shocks and springs and chassis and stuff. Go ahead and tell everybody what you guys do when you winterize your chassis and stuff.
Well, chassis-wise, one of the biggest things people don't realize, and I know it sounds like you guys have talked about it a little bit before, but the oil in here inside your shocks, it's not like your normal motor oil. It's not like it's 2050 racing oil. Actually, if you know a little bit of history of shock oil and stuff, they used to use water actually as shock oil. So it's basically what they try to do is they get the smallest and the lightest viscosity they can. And so part of that deal with the light viscosity is that it has a chance that when it's outside in the cold weather, it wants to freeze.
Right, it expands.
It expands, and then once that happens, then your seals break. And then how you'll know that your seals broke is that at the end of the year, or when you come back the next year and you're racing, right at the bottom of the shock, and you'll see oil start to develop up and down your shock. That's how you know your seals inside your shock, your seal that's on the bottom of your shock is broken. So if you ever have oil dripping here, what that means is that your shock's losing oil. And so if your shock loses oil, then eventually starts cavitating, just has more problems. So one of the biggest things you want to do is never ever, especially in Nebraska, Iowa, this region, it does get freezing, below freezing a lot of times throughout the winter, snow.
Right.
Don't just put your car outside or in your shop with your shocks. Take your shocks off. If your shop's not heated, bring them inside, put them down in the basement, put them somewhere that they're not going to get frozen over the winter. The other big thing too is that people don't realize that your shock oil is just like motor oil. Now you don't have to change it every 4 nights like we do with our engine oil, but you want to be able to change that oil, because in the off season, you want to do is you want to take your shocks and you want to have them checked, and then you want to go and have the oil changed.
Right. And these new fancier shocks, I just got mine this year from Josh, and it's pretty incredible. These things are very maintenance friendly if you know what you're doing. It's not like a gas-filled shock, where what you got's what you got. When it's bad, you toss it, and you can have some of those gas-filled ones rebuilt, but they're never the same. It doesn't seem like when you have them rebuilt. And it's very true with these newer shocks. They're expensive. Don't get me wrong. These are a little more expensive than the old stuff we used to run, but that's one of those risk versus reward, performance enhancing things that people are going to. And it's well worth, like you said. Come the end of the season, pull these bad boys off. We always have a pair of crap shocks that we put on ours. Crap springs is another thing. We talked about that the last 2 weeks ago show about springs. Don't just leave your car sitting on the ground. I don't know about you guys.
Definitely don't. Definitely don't let your car just sit on the ground. One of the things during the off season is go through your car. Sometimes those little cracks, the little welds, one thing we like to do is take all the sheet metal off your car. If you're not going to replace your deck or your interior, that's fine. Just at least
take the sides off.
Get your deck off. Get it off and get it straightened out. But then look at your roll cage, because the biggest thing for any driver is safety.
Absolutely.
You've seen some of the crashes, even in sport compacts, the way those things flip over. It's like no matter what class you're in, take the time in the winter. When you've got a little bit more time, you're not rushing to get to the track the next week, to go through your chassis. Make sure all your welds are good. Make sure that, throughout your car, that it looks the way you want it to look.
Yeah, and one of the things, the way I look at it is parts like this, like your shocks, your seat belts, your things like that. Anything that can be damaged by cold and weather. Look at it as if it was your helmet or your driving suit. You don't leave those out all winter long, let the mice get in them, chew on them, whatever. So those safety gear items, anything that has to do with your safety or that's fragile, like some of these shock absorbers are, take them inside over the wintertime, put them away, throw a set of crappy shocks on your car, a set of crappy springs so you can roll around the shock. In the shop, you don't care that the springs have taken a set and things like that. It makes a huge difference when you go out the next year. If you just leave it sit there and think your car is going to be the same, it's not if it's been sitting there.
Definitely.
You need to go through all your Heim joints and make sure nothing's bound up. That's a good time to take all your swing arms and things like that and check all those Heim joints. Heim joints, are not very expensive, and they do get dirt in them and they bind up, and you're better off just putting brand new ones on. Because you're gonna, you can save all your measurements when you put them back together. But that's one of those winterizing tips that these Heim joints, you just see how nice and free that is. especially on the modifieds and the sport mods where you want everything to rotate and move.
You can kind of see that there, but
that's one of those big things that sits all winter with dirt packed in it.
Yeah.
And you go out and you think it's going to be the same, and all of a sudden your car's not rotating.
Right. And you know, one thing on Heims too, like what we'll do even weekly is we'll go through all of our Heims, you know, make sure we'll spray them with the Heim cleaner type spray. You know, but one thing, especially in the off season, you got more time than just your normal bar check. So what you want to do, especially if you're an AMOD guy, you want to definitely take your bird cages off your rear end. You know, if anybody isn't running a bearing bird cage on your rear end, you need to be. You know, give us a call. We'll hook you up with some BSB parts, but any of the parts dealers can get you that.
Right.
You want to get a good bearing bird cage, but also in the winter you want to pull that stuff apart. You know, on your rear end you want to take all that stuff apart, so you make sure that inside of there that you don't have something going wrong. You don't have a bearing going bad. You don't have anything.
You can say this from the nose to the tail of the car. Anything that moves, you need to check. And it's easier to do it now when it's warmer, unless you have the fortunate enough to have a heated shop. I don't. I have a nice shop, but it's heated by a wood stove, which means it's warm enough to work with your gloves off, basically, and that's about it. Next thing we're going to talk about is the engine, which is the big thing that we kind of wanted to touch on besides some of the chassis stuff that are important. When you winterize your engine, some guys run straight water, some guys run antifreeze, some guys, I don't know, they run just about anything. But when it comes to
water wetter.
Yeah, water wetter. When it comes to your engine, depending on what you're going to do, it's probably the most important thing you can do is to winterize it correctly. And with the crate motors, a lot of times people can't tear them apart and inspect them and do all that stuff. So one of the biggest things that you have to do is winterize that motor correctly. Now, you may still be pulling it out of the car and taking it inside, or you have a heated shop or whatever, but this right here is the one thing that's going to save your ass. And a lot of you are going, well, that's storage seal from mercury. Yes, it is. It's a fogging oil. And this is something I picked up from my Coast Guard days and working on boat engines, the things that are stored in cold climates, made for cold climates outside, whether you're inside, doesn't matter. Unless you're going to start your car every, once a week, once every 2 weeks, sitting in the shop that's heated, that's fine. You don't have to worry about it. But for guys like me who don't have a heated shop, this is one of the biggest things you can do. Now you guys use Marvel Mystery Oil.
Yeah, we're big believers in that Marvel Mystery Oil. We had some problems this year with some corrosion. We're an alcohol AMON motor. And so, going to that Marvel Mystery Oil really helped us clean out some of that kind of residual leach.
And see, this is one of those things that you use, and I was telling Corey, what you actually do is the last time you run your motor for the year, you take and you spray the stuff right down the carburetor, and it's a foam. It'll come out really foamy, and it's a thick oil. And you run it through your engine, and it's going to smoke up your shop. First thing is do this outside if you can. If you're not, leave the doors open, whatever. But you're going to spray this in there, and what this is not only a penetrating oil, it's also, it coats these parts. So when you spray it down the carburetor and it's made to burn, and you run that motor, it's coating everything with that fogging, your valve guides, your valves. And in a crate motor, this is probably an important thing that you should really do. A lot of guys will take spark plugs out and just shoot some oil in there. Well, that doesn't lubricate all the other things that are in that motor, especially crate motors that are sealed, and you can't see inside them. Us, we pull our motor out every year regardless. We go through it. So winterizing for us basically is make sure it's dry. But if you guys are running water in your motors, you need to definitely make sure that you either run some antifreeze through the whole system and then drain it down.
Or you can pull, like what we do, like generally we'll pull out our freeze plugs and then we'll just drain all the water out of the block.
Yeah, but a lot of guys aren't willing to pull freeze plugs,
Yeah, true.
But there's stories of guys that, hey, I put antifreeze in my car and I let it set all winter and the freeze plugs pop out. Well, when you do that, if you're going to run an antifreeze in your car and leave the motor in, which there's nothing wrong with, you need to make sure that you test that antifreeze. Just don't go, well, I got this much and dump it in there. And I've seen guys do that.
Oh yeah, you don't know if your block's full of water.
If you don't have a spectrometer tester, which is one that you put a little smear on there, hold it up to the light, or a specific gravity tester, to test what's actually in there and read the jug, and it tells you what the freezing points are. You can use the 50-50, like the RV mixes, which what we use in a lot of boats. If you're going to take your engine out and it had water in it, just take and pour some of that in and let it run through the water pump and flush it out, and you don't have to pull the freeze plugs, and then just drain it. Don't run it in your radiator, don't run it in the car, but it's one of those where you just pull the hoses off, pour it in, and it gives you that protection in your motor if you ran water, and it also keeps it for corroding. That's the big thing, is once you dump all this stuff out, it's the first thing that starts is rust. you know, and rust in your water pump, rust inside your block, all that stuff. And it's all bad, and that stuff causes overheating problems later on in the year as it builds up.
Well, and that's some of the things too. I mean, there's nothing worse than, I know, like my Uncle Kevin had this happen one time where he had a motor sitting outside and the block broke. It was cold, and I mean, once you get that crack in the block, and
you're done.
Get to new motor time.
Say there is no JB welding that stuff, you know. Although I've seen it attempted.
Yeah.
It will
and
not
he actually,
work.
that motor he did have it JB welded up, but the motor's not going to be right.
No, it won't be, and you're just asking for trouble, because as soon as that stuff pops out, guess what? So does the guts of the motor.
That's it.
So there you have it, folks. Here's some of the tips for winterizing. Like I said, it's that time of year. So winterize your motors and take care of your shocks and your springs and go through it front to back, like heim joints and all that stuff. And that's our tech tip of the week, so we'll be right back with some more Slingin' Dirt.
Warning, the related content may be disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Alright, so we're winding down to the end of the year of another racing season, and I gotta say, I've had some pretty bad nights, some good nights, but all in all, I'm doing what I love, and I'm a lucky son of a gun. I get to do these videos, I get to rant and rave like an idiot because of the sport, and I get to race. I get to meet tons of people. I'm lucky enough to get to travel. I have an amazing time. You know, I went to a lot of different tracks. I've had a great time at almost every last one of them. Even the ones that I didn't have a great time at, the people were still great. You know, I've been asked to come back to the one I had a really, really bad experience at. And they've got a new promoter. I've talked to him. I'm really looking forward to giving that track another shot. I'm gonna run some specials. So it got me to thinking, you know, what is the greatest thing of this? Is it the rush of trying to make sure every lap you turn it the right way, you enter it the right way, you exit the right way? Is it passing somebody for the big win? Is it all the friends you make? Is it the people you meet? I mean, what is it? Or is it, you know, just getting out there and enjoying it? What makes it so enjoyable? And I have to say, obviously what makes it the most enjoyable for me, because my talent is not good enough for the big wins, is the people I meet and the friends I've made along the way. I mean, I've had some amazing friends through this, that from all the way from Texas to Minnesota and spots in between. And I gotta say, it's been incredible. I love doing what I'm doing. I'm a lucky son of a gun. And I think in the next couple years, I'm gonna branch out into a few different ventures in different areas of racing, just so I can stay involved. I'm 45, I'm gonna have to step back sooner or later. My reaction time's never been the greatest, and it's gonna get worse. So, you know, it got me to thinking about all the things, you know, I'd love some input from people, you know, what you like out of a promoter, what you like out of a racetrack, what you like out of a competitor, you know, all that stuff. Because the ventures I'm thinking about going into, I could really, really use some input as to what people like about tracks and promoters and racers. And I just think that this page doesn't get used as much as it should with input. So I'm more than just a guy who gets on here, screams and rants and raves. I'm a guy who loves the sport. I'm a guy who loves charity help, you know. So get on here, give some advice, tell us what you want to see with the show next year, what you love about racing, what you love about certain tracks, and, you know, let's make this sport better every day.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Slingin' Dirt. We're here with Corey Baker, and we've been having a really good show. We talked about a lot of different things. as you just got done with Songer, Songer says, we've talked about him and Buddy and everything else under the sun. So I've had a lot of fun today. I hope you have.
I have. One thing we haven't talked about though is the holiday horsepower drive, and I know we give Buddy and those guys a lot of hard time, but
right.
Some of the best people, heart of gold. I mean, Buddy Ray, I love him to death.
Yeah, and I do too. So no death threats, please.
Yeah.
Songer's the same way. Like I say, we all have. All of us, Buddy Ray, you, me, Jamie, we all work with charities. Buddy's is the holiday horsepower drive. I've been involved with it. I think this is my 8th or 9th year. It's been ever since I've known Buddy. Once he told me about it, I was sold. I was in.
I mean,
it's
such a great event.
And he's got Racing with the Stars coming up, and that's going to be November 1st from noon to 4. And he's got a format, and you can go to his Facebook page or his website or Joe's Karting, any of those, and he's got all the details, and we've talked on it on previous shows, so if you need to look up that previous show, I'm not going to go into it because I can never guess what's in his head. So, get it right from the horse's mouth.
There you go.
And Songer's the same way. He has his charities that he does. I have my own charities that we work with, and that's what's the beautiful thing about the racing community is we're tight, and like the Hannah Phillips thing, Jamie's real tight with her family, so he was upset on the last show about that stuff. But yeah, Racing with the Stars, you got to come out, and all that money is I think there's a certain portion of it, each races that are going to be donated. And you guys, didn't you donate the grand prize there?
Yeah, we've been the trophy sponsors the last few years. This year, Buddy switched it up a little bit. We kind of been working with them. So
I saw it. It's cool. I'm not going to say it because I don't know if he's announced it or not.
No, he did.
He did. Okay,
so the championship belt's out there. If you haven't seen it, go to Buddy's website or check out the Holiday Horsepower.
Yep, and the whole championship belt thing come from the spat between Buddy Ray and Harker and Mantower.
If you haven't seen it, you gotta.
And for you guys that don't know Mike Halleck, who is Mantower, great guy. It's all about charity, and if you think that wrestling is real, the story's not real, but the actual violence. Watching Buddy get slammed.
Watching Buddy get slammed, that was...
what did you think of the move where his face hit the fence?
I
about peed myself.
Yeah, it was amazing. Thank you, Buddy, for that moment.
That moment, and I have dubbed that the Flying Guppy. That's his famous wrestling move from Buddy Ray. Because the flop that he does at the very end is hilarious.
Watching him those guys get taken apart, that's amazing.
So in all seriousness, come out, race with the stars, spend your hard-earned money. It's all going to Children's Hospital for the Christmas visit. And I go to the hospital just about every year. And if you want to talk about something that will rip your damn heart out, it's watching these little kids who are, deathly ill. Some of them could make it out. Some might not even make it to Christmas. And for us to be able to come give them Christmas presents and share just a little bit of what we do, it will humble you beyond belief. You think you had problems and your day sucked or whatever. One day with them makes your whole perspective on life change quite a bit, and this all goes towards that. So it's very important that you guys come out and share some love. Even if you don't want to race, if you want to make a donation to the Holiday Horsepower Drive, which, all you racing guys, all over the country, if you can't be there and you can't race because it's a limited amount of time and a limited amount of space, please write a check, talk to your wives or your sponsors or whatever. It's the end of the season. See if you can't throw a little money to the Holiday Horsepower Drive and get a hold of Buddy Ray at Joe's Karting.
The other thing too, I know Buddy did last year and I'm sure he's doing this year is, if you have those end of year t-shirts that you haven't got rid of,
yes, absolutely.
Send those all to Buddy because he'll take them all and they'll give them out to the kids.
Yeah, those shirts go directly to the kids, and there's premature kids. So if you want to donate some baby blankets or things like that, get a hold of Rachel and Buddy. They can tell you things that they need. There's certain things every year that we have to kind of give them, just because of the age groups, and like there's the NICU with the babies and stuff.
Yeah.
We give them baby blankets and things like that they can use to help. And then the older kids, they love those racing t-shirts, and if you got window stickers, hero cards, whatever, please send them to Buddy Ray at Joe's Karting, because that time is coming up, Christmas, and we need to get all this stuff assembled. And before we actually do the visit, we have to put all this stuff in boxes and wrap it. So if you're available even then, if you can't make it to Racing with Stars, come down, spend a little time, donate a few hours in the morning. and you can get the exact date of what day we're gonna wrap them. But come down and help wrap. I mean, God, you don't want a bunch of race car drivers wrapping presents.
Yeah,
if our wives and girlfriends and stuff weren't there, these kids would be getting them in grocery sacks. So, but anyways, it's been great having you on the show. I had a really good time. I hope you did too.
Definitely.
It's kind of fun bashing Buddy and Jamie. Lord knows I take enough guff from them on and off
camera.
They
can take a little,
So I might have been a little excessive, but tough. Get over it. I owe you both big. And I just want to say I was not hokey pokeying. I was at a restaurant eating chicken where they were hokey pokeying. So with that being said, I deny the hokey pokey, and we'll be back next week with some more Slingin' Dirt.